great, guys. Thanks for doing that so quickly. And what I want you to do is, with your partner, I want you to, you can't draw anything or write anything down, but I want you to give them awesome directions from your house to the closest airport. All right?
You're on.
You're on. Okay, don't get them lost. They're driving. Now they're driving. They're not taking mass transit.
That's the worst. Not
No public transportation. You gotta drive.
Where are we going?
Oh, nightmare. Okay. LaGuardia.
Really? Oh, that's easy. Yeah.
17
Now, let's see mine. So the nearest airport is actually a municipal airport. So you would come out of my driveway, take a right, and then my street curves a little bit, and you would take it down until the street tees into another street, and then you take a left, and then you go to the Main Street. There's a Steak and Shake on the corner, so you know what you got there. And there you take a right and follow it for about a mile and a half till you get to the interstate. And then you would take the interstate, get on the interstate going south, and take it to the Boughton Road exit. You get off there going west or right and follow that for about 5 miles, and you'll be at the municipal airport.
So how many are totally lost?
25 minutes.
Oh yeah, I should have said, yeah, you have to drive and there's no GPS allowed. Yeah. So that little exercise of giving, it's fun to watch because you're all like, your eyes are going up here, you're thinking. What you just did was basic visualization. We had them do an exercise of how do you get driving directions from your house to the closest airport with no public transportation, no GPS. And I'm watching it, and I can see somebody doing hand gestures, you're in there, you're thinking, that, because oftentimes visualization gets this sort of woo-woo, how do I do this, kind of, I don't know, So I have a question for anybody in here daydream? Raise your hand if you daydream. Oh, and guess, do you think your players daydream?
Yeah.
All the time. They visualize. What we want to do is just take it a step further where it's what I call directed daydreaming or mental movie making. And they're the star of the show. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. They get to write their own script. They're the star. They get to do all of that. So we're just trying to take that brain activity that they have going on and put a direction to it. So it is a powerful driver of transformation using visualization. Like increased practice time. Do a lot of these on the East Coast, and waiting for the snow to melt and get onto those fields, so increased practice time. What's amazing is they've done studies, and let's say I was a basketball player, and I was actually going to go out and shoot free throws. And they wired me up. They measured all the muscle activity and muscle memory patterns, and I'm out there and I'm shooting free throws, right? Doing that, and they're measuring it. They're getting the amplitude of my muscle activity. Okay? So they've got a certain wavelength. What they found, and now they'll do the same thing if I'm just visualizing. I'm actually not shooting, I'm just visualizing. What they found is that the muscle memory patterns are identical. What's different is the amplitude. When I'm really shooting, of course, muscles are firing and they're going in a much greater pattern. But the better you get at visualization, it's going to follow the same pattern, so it's not going to be as great of an amplitude. So you are laying down, as we learn, those connections. And it can happen through visualization. So I use it a lot with, in the off season, or when kids are injured, or they're just walking to class. And it gets them a head start. So if they're already ahead of the game, they can do it in those preseason time. It's great. Improve focus. I hear that a lot. How do I get my kids to focus? Well, if they can sit down, they can focus and do video games, right, and do all that. Well, they're kind of making this movie in their head. If they really get into it, and they're the star, and they're doing all that, yeah, they can sit there and focus if it's exciting for them. And enlisting the imagination. Like you said, does a game ever go according to plan? No, you better be creative and imaginative and try to figure things out on the fly. And this is a skill that most kids have in spades, is just being able to use their imagination. I want to do this very quickly. This was an old debate about, because people will visualize differently. So an internal camera means that it's as if I'm watching myself, maybe I'm driving the car, but I see the experience from sitting in the driver's seat, looking out the windshield, driving the car. Versus an external camera, I'd be watching myself like I'm watching a movie screen, driving the car. And there was always a great debate about one's better. It doesn't matter. They're both the same, but you may hear these experiences from kids. And just to let you know that it doesn't really make any difference. Ways to make this really powerful is to engage all the senses. So for them, they're seeing the images. What else would they be doing?
Hearing.
Hearing.
Yeah, getting into the thing, hearing the sounds.
Feeling the ground or the cord under their feet or whatever they're holding in
Or
their hands.
equipment, they feel it. You know, a little bit of sweat dropping. They can maybe taste the salt as it goes in their mouth. All, you know, just the more you can get into that and create that experience, the better. Also, music. Anybody know why music is one of the most expensive line items in a movie? It is one of the biggest budget items. What does music add to a movie?
The emotional experience, I mean, it evokes some kind of response.
Yeah. When you amygdala in the brain, it's an emotional control center. Music is really stimulated by that. So when you add music to a visualization, it can make the experience even more powerful. And every kid has, you know, some iPod or something. So let's look at a couple of examples of how things that you can have their kids visualize, okay, and help them with that. The rehearsal of a perfect performance. So whether it's a particular technique, you know, they're working on their serve, their putt, their, you know, 40-yard throw. You've worked with them, you've taught them the steps, they kind of know the sequence, they can visualize going through those steps the way that you've described it. Or a tactic. You know, their role in a particular play, when you want them to make that cut, when they're supposed to set that screen, and really seeing that all happen, all come together repeatedly and laying down those patterns. I'd like everybody to try to say this word 3 times fast. Catastrophization. This is something that actually a lot of kids do in visualization or some self-talk, which they see themselves in a catastrophized situation, you know, double faulting, missing the punt, fumbling the ball, making the turnover. And what happens is they play that movie over and over and over again. What we want to help them with is, how do they deal with that? Okay, I did miss my first serve. What would that look like for them to handle that in a different manner? How are they going to respond after they fumble or they get down quickly? And helping them with that, because they usually get stuck at that, well, they just make the mistake or whatever, and then the whole thing stops, and they're building that pattern. So another great, powerful tool. And then flights of imagination. Yeah, I'm pulling that back. Breakthrough performances. Doing something they've never done before. You know, oftentimes, even at the college level, they will, some great coaches that I know will schedule a competition at the site of the Final Four or the site of the Nationals. And they'll have kids visualize about being in that spot and, you know, having a breakthrough performance and doing something that they've never done before. But even with little kids, because they are so imaginative. You know, making contact with the ball for the first time. You know, actually dribbling with their offhand. And the more they can practice and they've sort of done it once in their mind, chances are it's going to go up. So tools, how can you do this? If you are brave, you know, you can lead them on a guided visualization. But what I want you to know is not a Berkeley, let's all lay down and om, and it can be 5 minutes of you, and you kind of do it anyway when you're describing a play. So you can, if you can get that detailed, and you're having them relax, kind of close their eyes a little bit because it helps their focus, and just describe what it is that you want them to do. Okay? The other is individualized. You might take a 3x5 card or a little strip of paper and write out a couple sentences that you want them to visualize at night before they go to bed. One tool that I would add that I'm actually excited about trying is having, because kids are now so technologically savvy, and it's so easy now, if you're on a Mac, for instance, with iMovie and music and photos, to be able to create, you know, a lot of times we would spend a lot of money or